Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Hey Amud Aleph, 5a of Maseches Megillah. We're starting from the very top line of the page. The Gemara says, Amar Rav. Amar Rav, Megillah Bizmana Karinosa Afilu B'Yachid. If you're reading the Megillah Bizmana in the right time, meaning on the 14th, so then you read it even as an individual. You may read it even as an individual. Since it's the day that everybody has an obligation, so everybody's reading, and the idea that everybody's reading, even if they're on their own, that's Persumei Nisa. That publicizes the miracle, and everybody can read on their own. That's what Rav says. However, he says, Shalo Bizmana Ba'asara. But if it's not the right time, meaning it's one of the villages, and they're reading early on the Yom HaKnisa, on the Monday or Thursday, so then they only read it if they have a minyan, because then you have Persumei Nisa, then you have publicizing the miracle. A central aspect of Megillah, of reading the Megillah, is publicizing the miracle. And since when they're reading early, it's not everybody's reading it, only they are reading it. So you don't have this natural Persumei Nisa, this natural publicizing of the miracle, because everybody's doing it. So therefore you can only accomplish that if you have a minyan present for the Megillah reading. That's Rav's opinion. Rav Asi Amar, Rav Asi says, Bein Bizmana, Bein Shelo Bizmana Ba'asara. Whether it's the Zman, it's the 14th, or whether it's early, it should be done with a minyan. So Rav Asi is saying, no, you don't accomplish Persumei Nisa properly if you don't have a minyan there, even though everybody's doing it, and therefore, even on the 14th, it should be read with a minyan. Now Rashi points out, Rav Asi's not saying that if you don't have a minyan, you can't do it, but he's arguing on Rav. Rav was saying that you essentially accomplish Persumei Nisa on an equivalent level, even if you don't have a minyan present, because everybody's doing it that day. And Rav Asi says, no, you still ideally should go for a minyan and try to read Megillah even on the 14th in the presence of a minyan. Hava Uvda, there was an occurrence, V'chash le Rav lahad Rav Asi, and the Rav, who originally had a different opinion, he was choshesh, he took concern for the opinion of Rav Asi, and Rav went and tried to gather a minyan for Megillah, even though it was the Bizmana, it was the 14th, because he was concerned for the opinion of Rav Asi that the ideal way to read it is with a minyan. Ask the Gemara, Mi Amar Rav Hachi. Did Rav really say that if it's the Zman, then you do it individually, and if it's not the Zman, you have to read it with a minyan? Mi Amar Rav Hachi v'ha'amar Rav Yehuda Breder Rav Shmuel bar Shilas mishmei de Rav. But Rav Yehuda, the son of Rav Shmuel bar Shilas, said in the name of Rav, Purim shechal liyos b'Shabbos. If Purim falls out on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos zmanam. The Erev Shabbos, Friday, is their time. So, if Purim falls out on Shabbos, then Erev Shabbos is their proper time, it sounds like he's saying. Now, the Gemara wonders what he means by that. Erev Shabbos zmanam, Friday is their proper time. V'ha Shabbos zmanam hu. Shabbos is the proper time. If it falls out on Shabbos, Shabbos is the proper time. Shabbos is the Zman. Maybe they'll do it early, but you can't say that if it falls out on Shabbos, if the 14th falls out on Shabbos, then Friday is the Zman. The Zman, the right time, is Shabbos, and just you do it early. So what did he mean when he said Erev Shabbos Zmanam? Elo lav hachi kamar. Wasn't he saying the following? That Shelo Bizmanam Kizmanam. That we treat the Shelo Bizman like the Zman. What he was trying to say was that if Purim falls out on Shabbos, we have to read Megillah early, it becomes like the time itself. Now what would that mean? That would mean then that Mazmanam afilu b'yachid, just like Rav maintains that Bizmanam, on the right day, you're allowed to read b'yachid as an individual. So too, af shelo bizmanam afilu b'yachid. So too, if it's pushed off or pushed back, it's not the right time, you can read even biyachid, even as an individual, and you don't need a minyan. So again, the fact that Rav said that when Purim falls on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos is Zmanam, is the time, he must have meant that when Purim falls on Shabbos, the time that's not the time is the equivalent, is like the time. And what does he mean it's like the time? He must mean that just like when it's on time, you don't need a minyan, according to Rav. You can read as an individual, so too when it's early. And so it seems that he contradicts what he says, that when you read early, you have to read with a minyan. Here he seems to indicate that you do not need a minyan. So the Gemara says, no, that's not what he meant. Lo le'ingi mikra Megillah ba'asara. No, he wasn't. When he said that Erev Shabbos is the Zman, is the right time, he wasn't even talking about reading with a minyan. That wasn't what he was referring to. Ella my Erev Shabbos Zmanam. What was he trying to say that Erev Shabbos is the time? La'afuke midu Rabbi. He's just coming to argue on the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Da'amar, who said, "Ho v'nitchla yaris mimakomang yitchlu yom haknisa." That Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said that once the cities are being bumped from the proper time, we'll bump them all the way to Thursday, and Rab was coming to say, "Hakamash malan de erev Shabbos zmanamhu." That no, we don't push them all the way back to Thursday. Erev Shabbos would be the time. So when Rav said that if Purim falls out on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos is the time, he was not coming to say anything about they're equal and you need a minyan or you don't need a minyan. Nothing to do with that. He was just saying that he was just coming to argue on Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says that if the 14th is a Shabbos, we push all the way back to Thursday. And Rab was saying, no, if Purim is a Shabbos, then Erev Shabbos manam. Erev Shabbos is the time that we read the Megillah. Fine. Continues the Mishnah. Ezohi ir gedola. What is considering ir gedola, a large city? So we learned in the previous Mishnah that a large city reads on the 14th, an unwalled city, and the village reads can read early. They're makdim yom haknisa, that sometimes they read early. What's considered a large city? What's considered a village? So the Mishnah says, we already had this in an earlier Gemara, back on Gimel Amud Beis, Kol sheyesh ba asara batlanin. Any city that has 10 idlers, that is the sign of a large city. Is there's 10 idlers. What are these idlers doing? So they're not really idlers. They're batal mimalacha. They don't work, but they have an important job, and that is, as the Gemara is going to explain, they remain in the shul davening so that there's always a minyan in the shul, and then Hashem's presence dwells there in a greater way when there's a minyan there. So that was their job. So if you have a city that's large enough to support, they were supported by the community. It's like an early version of a kollel, except that they were davening there all day, not learning. It sounds like. So if you have a city that's large enough to support that, then that's a large city. Pachos mikan, harei kfar. Smaller than that, they can't support 10 of these people. It's a village. Okay. Be'elu amru makdiming v'lo ma'achrin. Now, with regards to the days of Purim, we set out a rule that we sometimes read early, we never read late. Meaning we cannot push, we never push past the 14th for unwalled cities, and never past the 15th for walled cities. And the Gemara will explain where we get that from, but that's the halacha. That's with regards to Megillah. We go early, but we don't go late. Aval zman. But now we're going to list some other things where actually we go late and we don't go early. And those are Zman Atzei Kohanim, literally the time of the wood of the Kohanim. What is this talking about? So as Rashi elaborates, the Gemara in Tainus tells us that there were turns that different families amongst the Jewish nation, they would take turns in having the honor to provide the wood for the Mizbeach. And everybody would have their day, or a week or whatever it was to bring up the wood to the Beis Hamikdash to provide for the Mizbeach. And when they did that, they also brought a carbon. So so if a certain family's day came out on Shabbos, then which I guess happened pretty often, then they would not bring their carbon on Shabbos. They wouldn't bring their wood on Shabbos. They would do it on Sunday instead. So that gets pushed later rather than pushed earlier. But Tisha B'Av also, the 9th of Av, if it falls out on a Shabbos, it gets pushed off to the 10th. Chagiga, the carbon Chagiga, the Ram Chagiga was a carbon shlama, a peace offering that one was obligated to bring on, one is obligated to bring on each Chag, on the Shalosh Regalim. The Hakel, so Chagiga also will get pushed off under certain circumstances. We'll see soon. And Hakel is the mitzvah every 7 years after the end of the Shemitah year, so the beginning of the Shemitah cycle really, on Sukkot. So the first day of Chol Moed Sukkot, in Israel, everybody would gather in Yerushalayim, the entire nation had a mitzvah to gather there, and the king would read from a Sefer Torah. So that's Hakel, and if it comes out, if the day of Hakel comes out on a Shabbos, so then, which is if the second day of Sukkot is a Shabbos, then it gets pushed off to the next day. And actually, just go back to Chagiga, that's the same thing. Chagiga is brought on Yantif, but we only bring it on Yantif, we don't bring it on Shabbos. So if the first day of Yantif is a Shabbos, then the Chagiga gets pushed off. So all these things get pushed later, they don't get pushed earlier. Ma'acharin v'lo makdimin. They are pushed later, but not earlier. Now, afal pi she'amru makdimin, even though with regards to Megillah, we said that the villages read early, they don't read later, mutarin behespedu v'tainis. They are permitted on the actual day of Purim, on the day that they read early, they are permitted to eulogize and to fast. Umatanas lavyonim, and they should also distribute the matanas lavyonim, the gifts to the poor of Purim. So let's say, for example, the villages are reading Megillah early on the 12th of Adar. So they're reading Megillah, but it's not the joy of Purim that day. Like we said, actually, the very top line of this Gemara was the end of last week's Amud, that we always celebrate the feast of Purim, the Suda, on the 14th, even villages. But if they in this situation where they're reading Megillah early, they're still it's not its day of celebration, and they're allowed to fast on that day. You're not allowed to fast on Purim, but you're allowed to fast on that day. You're allowed to say Hespedim. You could eulogize. And since that's the day you're reading Megillah, so that's also the day that you give out Matanos Lavyonim, the gifts to the poor. Okay, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, a Masai. So this we've also seen quoted. Rabbi Yehuda says, when do we say that the villages read early? Makom shenichnasin b'sheni uvachamishi. Only in places where they go early. Where they normally go into town on Monday and Thursday. Then we'll say that they can read early on Monday and Thursday. Aval, makom she'ein nechnasim lo b'sheni v'chamishi, but a village that they're not accustomed to going into town, not on Monday nor on Thursday, so then ein koren osa el b'zman, and they'll only read it in the proper time. They'll read it on the 14th, and they won't read early. We won't say, oh, you're a village, you should go into town early, even though you never do, to read Megillah. No, they wait till the 14th, and that's when they'll read the Megillah. Seemingly they'll have to go into town for that, because that seems to be part of, the story here is that's where they would hear the Megillah. So they would read on the proper day on the 14th. Okay, says the Gemara, Tana, we learned, Asara Batvanin, these 10 idlers, these 10 people who are batal from work, they're idle from work, then this was the requirement to be considered large cities. You have 10 of these people, it's Shebebeis HaKnesses. They're in the shul. That's where they are, and as Rashi explains, they don't work, they're supported by the community, and that's in order that they can always be there in the shul davening, and that way, when Hashem's presence comes there, it's pleased because there's a minyan davening there. Now, with regards to Megillah, we said we can read early, we can't read later. My time. I asked the Gemara, what's the reason for that? Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Abba says the name of Shmuel, Amar Kra, because the pasuk says in the Megillah, V'lo ya'avor, it shall not pass. So the pasuk says, chapter 9, verse 27, that Kimu v'kibu ha'yehudim alayim v'azaram, that the Jews accepting on them and on their descendants and all those who join them, V'lo ya'avor, and they won't let it pass. So the Gemara Darshans, it learns out, V'lo ya'avor means we won't let it pass, we won't let the day pass of Purim. And so we never read late, we can't let it pass, but we can read early. V'amar Rabbi Abba Amar Shmuel. Now once we quoted one statement from Rabbi Abba in the name of Shmuel, let's quote another one even though it's seemingly unrelated. Rabbi Abba says in the name of Shmuel, Minayin she'ein moning yomim l'shanim. How do we know that when we count up a year, we don't go by the days, we don't count 365 days, even though that's a solar year when we count a year. Rather we count when 12 months have elapsed. What context could this be relevant? Let's say a person says they take an oath that they take a vow that they won't benefit from any wine for a year. So what's a year? Is it 365 days from right now? Or is it when this date on the calendar shows up right now, again, which, again, might depend on a leap year, but on a normal year it would be 354 days about, so, or 355, depending. So how do we count a year? So the answer our Gemara is saying is you go by when this date appears on the calendar again, when 12 full months have elapsed. So then a year has passed. So how do we know that? So it says Shenemar, because the pasuk says Lichadshei Hashana, according to the months of the year. So it's the pasuk that introduces the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh in Parshas Bo. It says HaChodesh Zeh Lachem Rosh Chadashim. This moon will be the sign for you of a Rosh Chodesh. Or it could also be that this month, Nisan is the first of the months. Rishon Lachem L'Chadshei Hashana. It's the first for you, L'Chadshei Hashana, the months of the year, which tells us that a year is made up of months. So when a person says they're not going to have wine for a year is made up of months. When all the months of the year have elapsed, when 12 months have elapsed, that's a year. When that date shows up on the calendar again, a year has passed. Again, in the Hebrew calendar. And you don't have to wait 365 days, a solar year. So, what that teaches me is that we count months for years, we don't count days to count up years. Now, once we're on this topic, V'Rabbanan de Kesari Mishum Rabbi Abba Amru, the Rabbanan of Caesarea, they said in the name of Rabbi Abba, along the same lines, a bit different, Amru, Minayin she'en mechashvin sha'os l'chadashim. How do we know that when we count months, we don't count by hours, we count by days? So let's say a person says to a woman, he gives her a get, he gives her a bill of divorce, and he says, this will be your get if I don't come back within a month. So if I don't come back, then it's I'm giving it to you on condition. If I don't come back within a month, you'll have this get, you'll have this bill of divorce. So, and then it was a 29-day month, meaning based in declared Rosh Chodesh, and it was a 29-day month. And so on day 30, or really the eve of the 30th, he comes back. So it's already the first of the next month, the way they've counted it, but only 29 full days have elapsed. Now a month, really, a lunar cycle, a cycle of the moon, takes 29 and a half days or so. So really a month hasn't elapsed in hours, but it was declared a new month already. So is he back within a month or not? That's the question, and the answer is that he's back he's missed it in this case. It became after it's the new month, then it's the new month. Even if the hours haven't passed, 29 days plus whatever number of, half a day, whatever is hours. So even though that hasn't elapsed, but it's considered a new month already. So that's learned from here. How do we know that when we count a month, we don't count by the hours, but rather by the days? Shenemar ad chodesh yamin. The pasuk says, it says up until a month of days. So yamata mechashev l'chadashim, which teaches me that we count days to calculate months. V'yata mechashev sha'os l'chadashim, and we don't count hours to count up months. Fine. So that's the source that we would go by the days, and once in this case 29 days, if it was a 30-day month, it would be 30 days, but that's how we decide a month. Okay. Now, that was with regards to Megillah. We said we go early, we don't go late. But then we have a list of other things. Aval, Zman Atzei Kohanim, the time of the bringing the wood. And if a person's day came out on Shabbos and they were supposed to bring their carbon, their special offering, so they would postpone it till the next day. They wouldn't do it early, they do it late. Tishbav gets postponed if it's on Shabbos. V'chagiga, if the first day of Yom Tov is Shabbos, the carbon chagiga, the festival offering gets postponed. V'hakel, and hakel, the gathering after the Shemitah year on Sukkot. Me'achrin v'maktimim, all those get pushed off and they are not done early. Why? So it doesn't explain the wood, but I guess you could just say, why do it early? If your day Shabbos, we just push it off until the next day. Now, Tisha B'Av, why don't we do, so we don't want to have Tisha B'Av on a Shabbos. It's a sad day, we're not going to have a sad day on Shabbos, but why don't we do it early? So we don't want to bring tragedy early. Like we're not going to commemorate the tragedy early because it's tragic, so we push it off. That's Tisha B'Av. Chagiga v'hakel. Why do Chagiga and Hakel get pushed off? Now, first of all, in the first place, why do they need to be pushed off? Why can't you bring the carbon Chagiga on a Shabbos? So if the first day, so again, normally you would bring the carbon Chagiga, special festival, peace offering on the first day of Yom Tov, but if it's a Shabbos, then we push it off. And that's okay, because you have the whole Yom Tov to bring it, if necessary. And and the issue basically is that you can't bring this carbon. You can bring it on Yom Tov, but you're not allowed to bring this special carbon on Shabbos. The Gemara will get into it shortly. Now, in terms of Hakel, what's the issue with Hakel? Hakel is everybody gathering by the Beis Hamikdash. What's wrong with that? Why do we have to push it off? Why can't we do it on Shabbos? So there's two possibilities that Rashi quotes, two opinions. One is there's an issue of setting up the bima, the platform that the king would read from. He needs to be on a platform, and you can't set it up early. And you can't set it up on Shabbos. So they would push it off. If the first day of Chol Moed Sukkot is a Shabbos, they would push it off. Alternatively, because everybody has to bring their kids, and that can involve carrying in the public domain, so they push it off. Okay, so why push it off? Why not do it early? Says the Gemara, Chagiga v'hakel mishum dakati u'lamata zman chiyuvayu. Because the time of the obligation has not come yet. So you can't do it early, because you have to wait for the obligation to take effect. And then you can do it, but you can't. These are obligations that take effect on a specific day, and before they've taken effect, you can't do it. After they've taken effect, so as long as they don't go out of effect, then you could, and they don't go out of effect, meaning that if you miss it on the first day, you can still bring it the rest of Yom Tov, the Karm Chagiga and Hakel as well. Tana. So now let's talk about Chagiga. So we have a teaching from the Tanaim, from a Tana, that Chagiga v'chol zman Chagiga me'achrin. Chagiga and Zman Chagiga, the time of Chagiga, get pushed off. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean, they get pushed off? So Bishlam Chagiga, so I understand that that what we mean, we push off Chagiga, it means Di'i Miklo B'Shabsa, if the first day of Yantif, of Sukkot, or Pesach, or Shavuos falls out on Shabbos, so then Me'achrin Lo Basar Shabsa, then we push it off until the day after Shabbos, we push it off till Sunday. Ela Zman Chagiga Maihi. So what do we mean that also Zman Chagiga, the time of Chagiga, gets pushed off? What does that even mean? So we'll have a number of opinions. So Amar Rav Oshia says, Hachi Kamar, this is what it means. Chagiga b'Shabbos. Chagiga gets pushed off if it's on Shabbos. That was the first statement. Chagiga and Zman Chagiga get pushed off. So Chagiga meant if the Chagiga is on Shabbos, it gets pushed off. Again, that means if the first day of Yantif, which is when you would normally bring your carbon Chagiga, if it's a Shabbos, you push it off until the next day. And also, what do we mean the Zman Chagiga gets pushed off? What we mean is the Olas Re'iyah Afilu B'Yom Tov. The Olas Re'iyah. So along with bringing a carbon Chagiga, when a person would be Ola L'Regel and come up to on their pilgrimage to Yerushalayim on the Yom Tov, so they aren't to come empty-handed. Lo Yira'u Fanei Rekam. And there's something called an Olas Re'iyah, a carbon Ola, that is a burnt offering that they are to bring while they're visiting the Beis HaMikdash. Now, says Rav Oshia, Afilu b'Yom Tov, that even on Yom Tov you can't bring it. Which is Man Chagiga, which is day you could bring the Chagiga, Me'achrin, we push it off. That's what I meant. Chagiga gets pushed off when it's on Shabbos. It gets pushed off when the first day of Yom Tov is Shabbos, and Zman Chagiga, and then there's something that gets pushed off even from the normal time of Chagiga, which is the Olas Re'iyah. That gets pushed off. The special carbon Ola that one brings when they are Ola Regel, when they do their pilgrimage, so it gets pushed off. They never bring it on the first day of Yom Tov according to him. And that's because he holds, as we'll see in a moment, like Beis Shammai, but that you're not allowed to bring an Olas Re'iyah on Yom Tov. You could bring a carbon Chagiga, but you can't bring an Olas Re'iyah. What's the difference? The difference is that a carbon Chagiga is a carbon Shlamim. And you eat, the people who bring a carbon Shlamim eat from it. So on Yom Tov, when Tzarech Ochel Nefesh, that things that you need for food, you're allowed to cook them, so you're allowed to bring a carbon Chagiga because you're going to eat it. But a carbon Ola is a burnt offering, elevation offering, the whole thing gets consumed by the Mizbeach. And so you don't get anything. So according to him, you're not allowed to bring that carbon on Yom Tov, and you wait till Chol Moed to bring it. But Mani, who's this going like? Beis Shammai. This will be according to Beis Shammai. Ditnan, because we have a Mishnah, Beis Shammai Omrim, Mevi'in Shlamim B'Yom Tov, Ve'ein Somchin Alein. Beis Shammai says you're allowed to bring a carbon Shlamim, a peace offering on Yom Tov, because again, a carbon Shlamim, you get to eat the meat, so you're allowed to bring it on Yom Tov, because it's Tzarech Ochel Nefesh, you need it to eat. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. However, vein somchin alein, but you don't do smicha. So normally on a carbon, there's something called smicha, which is where you would lean on the animal. But on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you're not allowed to ride an animal, and so Beis Shammai says you also can't even lean on it. That's part of the rabbinic decree that you can't ride an animal, you can't because smicha involves putting your weight on it, and you're not allowed to do that on Yom Tov. Aval lo olos, but you can't bring any carbon ola on Yom Tov. Okay, the carbon tamid, the daily offering, that's always brought Shabbos and Yom Tov, but an individual can't bring a carbon ola on Yom Tov. And again, that's for the reason that we said, because Beis Shammai holds, and Rav Oshia apparently, at least, either he holds or he's saying this statement that we're trying to interpret goes like Beis Shammai, is that a carbon ola you don't get any benefit from, and so you're not allowed to bring that on Yom Tov because you can only cook tzarech ochel nefesh, things that you're going to benefit from. Beis Hillel, but Beis Hillel says, mevi'in shlamim ve'olos, you can bring a carbon shlamim and a carbon ola, v'somchel, and you're even allowed to do smicha, you can even lean on it. So Beis Hillel holds, first of all, that shlamim, peace offering, fine, you get to eat that. Even Beis Shammai said you could bring that on Yom Tov. What about a Karban Ola? So Beis Hillel holds that for Gavoa, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're also allowed to bring a carbon to cook. So that's included in the permission of cooking, of doing tzarech ochel nefesh. You're allowed to do it for the mizbeach, for so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's meal. So you can bring even a carbon ola. And Beis Hillel says that you're allowed to do smicha. You're allowed to lean on it. Let me just back up a second. Beis Shammai, who said that you're not allowed to, held so you should do it the day before, because he holds you don't have to do it immediately before. So you could do it the day before, erev Yom Tov, and then you bring your carbon chagiga on Yom Tov or your carbon shlamim. But Beis Hillel says that no, you should do it right before, and he's not concerned about the prohibition of riding an animal, either because he doesn't consider this riding. Alternatively, it could be that we have an idea, ein shvus b'mikdash, that we don't have rabbinic restrictions like that in the Beis HaMikdash, and so we're not concerned that the whole reason you can't ride an animal, or at least the stated reason, is because if you're riding an animal, you might break off a branch and strike the animal. So that's at least the reason that the sages give us. So therefore you can't do smicha either. Beis Shammai says you can't lean on the animal. That's like riding on it. But Beis Hillel says you could, and it could be because ein shvus b'mikdash. We don't have these types of restrictions in the Beis HaMikdash. Potentially, I don't think I saw the exact explanation why. Okay, so that's Rav Oshia's reading of this Tana, this Brisa that says Chagiga and Kol Zman Chagiga Ma'achrin. That the Chagiga and the Zman Chagiga we push off. What did that mean? It meant that if the Chagiga comes on Shabbos, we push it off. And there's something, the Olas Re'iyah, the elevation offering that one brings when they're Ol Regel, when they do the pilgrimage, that gets pushed off even always, according to Beis Shammai, on the first day of Yom Tov, which is the Zman Chagiga, which is the time of Chagiga, it still gets pushed off. Okay, that's his explanation. Says the Gemara, Rava says a different pshat. What does it mean, Chagiga v'chol zman Chagiga ma'achrin? That the Chagiga and the time of Chagiga get pushed off. What it means is, Chagiga kozman Chagiga ma'achrin tfeila. What it means is, we can push off the Chagiga for the time of Chagiga, but not more than that. What does that mean? Ditnan, as we're learning a Mishnah, Misha lo chag b'yom tov harishon shel chag. If a person didn't bring the carbon chagiga on the first day of Yom Tov, of Sukkos, chogig v'holech es kol regel kula. They're allowed to bring it the entire regel, v'yom tov ha'achron shel chag, and even on the last day of the chag, which is Shmini Atzeres. Avar haregel v'lo chag, but once it passes, once the holiday is over, eino chay b'achrisa, you're not responsible for bringing it anymore. So what it's telling you is that the chagiga, how much time can you be ma'acher? How much can you delay it? Kol zman chagiga, the whole time of the chagiga, which is the holiday. That's what I was saying according to Rava. Rav Ashi says a different explanation. Chagiga v'chol zman chagiga ma'acherin. That the chagiga and the whole time of the chagiga we push off, what does that mean? Vafilu atzeres dechad yoma me'achrin. What it means is even Shavuos, which is only one day, you're allowed to push it off. Ditana, because you're learning a Mishnah, modim shimchal atzeres lios b'Shabbos sheyom tavuach achar HaShabbos. Beis Hillel will agree that if Shavuos falls out on Shabbos, that the day that of slaughtering is going to be Sunday. In other words, as follows: Rav Ashi is saying that what do we mean chagiga v'kol zman chagiga ma'achrin? what we mean is the entire amount of time that you have for the carbon chagiga, if it comes out on Shabbos, we push it off, and even on Shavuos. That's what he's adding, meaning the other opinion, the previous opinion would say, well, you can only push it off for the Chag. Shavuos in Eretz Yisrael is 1 day. So if you push, if the 1 day of Shavuos is on Shabbos, according to Rava, if you can't bring it, you're going to miss out on the Chagiga for that year. Because you only have the Chag. In the case of Sukkot, you have lots of days to choose, but Shavuos is 1 day, that's it. That's what Rava read. Chagiga, you have Kol Zman Chagiga. You have the time of the Chag, basically, to bring it. Rav Ashi is saying, no. Rav Ashi is saying you actually have more time. Even Shavuos, which is only 1 day, you have Tashlumin. You have 7 days to bring it, even after Shavuos. And where does he get this from? He says it's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, in Chagiga, we have there a machlokas, a dispute. What happens when Shavuos falls out on a Friday, Erev Shabbos? Beis Shammai says that one second. Yeah, so what in the case of if Shavuos falls out on Erev Shabbos, so Beis Hillel is fine. Beis Hillel says you're allowed to bring both the Chagiga and an Olas Re'iyah on Yantif. So Yantif is Friday, and you can bring both the Chagiga and the Olas Re'iyah on that Friday. But Beis Shammai holds you can't bring an Olas Re'iyah on Friday. So you can't bring it Friday, but the next day Shabbos, so you can't bring it Shabbos. So Beis Shammai says that you're going to bring it on Sunday. You're going to bring it on Sunday. And Beis Hillel says, no, you'll bring it on Friday. Now, on that, it says that Modim, they agree, and this is what our Gemara quotes, they agree that if Shavuos is on Shabbos, though, that then you can't bring the Ola Re'iyah on Shabbos, and also you can't bring the Karban Chagika on Shabbos. There they agree, and you bring it the next day on Sunday. But what do we see? We see from this Mishnah that even for Shavuos, you can bring the Chagiga late. You can bring the Chagiga on Sunday, even though it's after Shavuos. So both according to Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai will have you do that even when Shavuos, actually not the Chagiga, only the Olas Re'iyah. But at least when Shavuos falls out on Shabbos, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that you would bring the Chagiga on Sunday. It's not even Shavuos anymore. So Rav Ashi says, you see that you have extra time for Tashlumin, for making up the Chagiga, even when the holiday is over. And so according to Rav Ashi, what this Brisa is coming to tell you is we push off the Chagiga the amount of time of Chagiga. What's the amount of time of Chagiga? So it's a Yantif. So on Pesach and Shavuos, it's the whole Yantif. But the Chiddush, the novelty, according to Rav Ashi, is that you get the same time for Shavuos. Shavuos, even though Shavuos is 1 day, and that's it. But for making up the Chagiga, if you missed it, you have 7 days, just like you have for the other holidays.